Welcome back, everybody, to Cool Times Podcast, where we talk all things cool about the cold storage construction industry. We are your host, Jenna and Vince Free. We have an exciting episode because it's our last episode of the year.
Our first full year.
Yeah, so episode 23 coming at you right around the holidays. So when you guys are putting up Christmas lights or trees or buying last minute gifts, you guys can be listening to us on Apple Podcasts. You guys can watch us on YouTube. We really appreciate all the listeners and subscribers and support throughout the year. Super humbled by it.
Yes.
Thank you to all our sponsors, Jamison, Versafoam, Rytech. Without you guys, this show doesn't exist.
No.
You know, so it's been a blessing, and we're excited for the 2023 season. We have a great lineup, but without further ado, our guest today is going to be a badass customer, friend, known this guy a super long time. This gentleman has been in the cold storage, construction, and industrial refrigeration industry for 35 plus years. You know, this is the ultimate story. You're working your way up from the bottom to the top. He is currently I'm actually not going to ruin it. I'm going to let our guest talk about where he started and where he is now, his path. He is currently at United States Cold Storage. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. David Arnett.
Welcome.
Thanks, guys. Glad to be here.
Thanks
I really
for joining
enjoyed
us.
the podcast too. I just want to let you guys know, though, I feel a little bit outgunned though with the headphones and the mics and all that. So I brought my own just so I at least look like you guys.
I love it.
The only problem is I can't hear you anymore.
Oh yeah, you look like you're like a Top Gun.
For about a second, so I can at least say, "Hey, I've got my own headphones."
There you go. 10-4-9, are you there? Do you
Roger,
look like
Roger.
Top Gun.
Roger. I love
Yes. Absolutely.
Well, Dave, thank you so much for taking time around the busy holiday season to join us on our last podcast of the year. We're very happy to have you, and we would love for you to give our audience a little intro to yourself, how you got into cold storage, maybe why you stayed.
Well, believe it or not, I was pretty much born into cold storage. My dad worked for U.S. Cold Storage for 40 plus years.
Wow.
And honestly, as a elementary, junior high, my brother and me in the summertime used to follow him around. You know, he would drain oil from compressors and this kind of stuff during the summer. And one time I say the reason I'm in it, my brother's not, is he said, "Here, you guys carry these things back out to the car. We're going to go to the next plant." And my brother had the hose, and he decided to sniff the ammonia hose, dropped him out flat, passed out in the parking lot. I decided not to smell that hose, so I'm in ammonia, and he's a software engineer. So that's how the paths. But nice. I said I always had an interest in it, and I said even from a young age, I thought what my dad did was cool. So, and just the smells, the sounds, everything about it, I really liked it. I graduated high school and I joined the military, and I went and did computer repair for field artillery computer repair, thinking that that's the way of the future, computer repair at that time. This is back in the 80s. And when I got doing it, I said, well, all these guys do is change cards, in and out of the computer. I thought it's pretty boring, and they weren't making really great money doing it. So I thought, I need to go back to college and start learning, I think, what my dad did, because I really liked what he was doing and that. So I went back to the time we moved to Sacramento. I started Sacramento Community College, went through there. It's a mechanical electrical technology course that they have specifically for stationary engineers at that time, because it was a union position at U.S. Cold Storage in Sacramento that I started with. So I started doing that. And at the same time, U.S. Cold hired me on as an apprentice. But the condition was I had to go through that course. So that's what I did. I did that for about 2 years, going through their course, doing that, and stayed there in that union position about 5 years. And then after that, I was the last guy in union position, so I was the first guy out. So I then had to go find other employment, at that time.
Sure.
That's really how I got into, doing this. It was one of those things I really loved what my dad did, and I just thought, I want to do that. So
sure. Well, Dave, I read your bio when you sent it to me, and I'm like, man, I could have a 15-minute intro about you and how you started and working for Glacier Ice Company, and then moving over to Patterson Frozen Foods, both companies I'm very familiar with. You know, when I was selling doors, God, back in 2006, I would travel in Northern California and I would drive up the 99 and I would see all these companies and that's how I met you.
Right.
And God, I was such a young buck when I first met you, Dave, and it's
I know.
crazy.
It's kind of funny to think about how young both of us at that time. I mean,
Oh my God,
that's been a lot of years ago. So
yeah. And 17 years later, here we are, and
right.
you know, still keep in touch. And you know, even if we go a couple of years without talking to each other, I could text you and you text back. And you know, back in the day, we used to love the Niners, and I'm still a big Packer fan. And I know you've divorced the 49ers, but
yeah,
it's over.
Yeah, I know. As a lot of people I talk to do, they're like, I think after Kaepernick's debacle there, I think okay.
A lot of people did that. And but anyways, I mean, just your story is incredible, working your way up, and your story at United States Cold Storage, I feel is something to be talked about. How you started as an apprentice at US Cold and worked your way up to engineering, and now you're corporate engineering, overseeing these huge projects, mainly West Coast.
Yeah, mainly. I actually have an East Coast project right now in Florida that I'm doing, and we're going to oversee. Yeah, we've got some changes going on within the engineering department at US Cold. I mean, like most companies nowadays, I mean, COVID really did a number on a lot of companies and personnel, and
sure.
So there's been a lot of moving around. But yeah, I mean, I've always helped. Once I got into this role as project engineer, helped out with East Coast, West Coast projects. That never, but physically having the project under my belt, this would be my first East Coast project. So
sure, is that going to require a lot of travel from West Coast
yeah,
to Florida?
Yeah, it's going to start up at the first of the year, and so I believe it will. I mean, just my level of involvement that I like to be involved with, sites and they're from start to finish. I think it's going to require me, at least a couple times a month to get out there and see the project, see progress.
Sure. And that's what I've always loved about you too. Like even when it was like from the smallest thing of the cold storage doors or the high speed doors on the building to, I mean, you're in the weeds looking at concrete specifications and what are you going to use for that, to the refrigeration system, and just you get into the weeds, right? And you're involved,
Right.
and I love that.
Yeah, and it's been a role of our company with our project engineers, I think, to do that. I mean, we're a very small group, but we do a lot of work, and I think
Sure.
and it's we kind of jack of all trades, or you kind of have to. You're not really a super great expert in a lot of things, but you rely on people like yourselves and others at a phone call away to say, "Hey, I got an issue. Can you help me?" And
Sure.
that's really what I rely on is good people,
Sure.
in the industries that they're in to,
Sure.
help me make good decisions, really.
Yeah, and you're a motorcycle guy too. You're gonna get on the old
Yeah.
motorcycle and drive out east.
Well, I'd like to do that. My son moved to Tennessee, and it's I don't know if you're familiar with the Tail of the Dragon and all that kind of stuff. That's a pretty hairy ride. I guess a lot of twisties and turns and all
Oh
that.
yeah.
That'd be a neat. I don't know if you trailer it out there, do the ride, or ride it out and do the ride. It'd be kind of neat to do that. A lot of the stuff. I mean, I live in California, so Central Valley. So I'm an hour from Yosemite, Grand Canyon, near the sequoias and all that, and then like 2.5 hours from the ocean. So I mean, take your pick. If you want to go to the mountains or the ocean or in between, it's a really nice, and year round you can ride, And matter of fact, this weekend we do with the motorcycle group I'm in, we're going to do a electric light parade for kids in the town that I live in Clovis. So looking forward to that too as well.
That sounds
So
awesome.
do those kind of things. So you put little twinkly lights on your bike and that kind of stuff, and right down the parade.
What kind of motorcycle do you have?
So I have an Indian Challenger. It's a bagger. I don't know if you're familiar with that style of bike, but it's a large bike. The engine on it is probably bigger than most small cars, but it's a very comfortable bike for cruising. Going distance. So yeah.
That's awesome.
Nice.
That's awesome.
And you surf.
Well, surf fishing.
Surf fishing.
Yeah,
Yes,
surf
I
fishing.
wanted to know about this.
Surfing's kind of for me right now. I mean, I boogie board, but surf fishing is really, I kind of got into that actually watching YouTube videos of guys doing it around here. I was like, man, I knew there had to be fish out there. And so you use like I don't know, about a 10 to 12 foot pole, but really lightweight 10-pound line and you're throwing it into the surf and reeling it back in and catching like surf perch and striper. You can catch flounder or halibut, they call them out here. So it's pretty neat. And it's a lot of fun. And I've had my line ripped, basically almost stripped off completely.
Wow.
Are you doing that from a pier or a shore? What are you doing that from?
You're just doing it from shore. Yeah, you got to find some, you try to find a spot where the beach kind of dips off a little bit and you kind of get into the waves. You really need to be into the waves, and particular lures that we use, look like kind of injured fish. Sure. So when they're coming back in, and it's right as the wave comes, a lot of fish are looking at as the wave comes across, and then it's like the bubbles behind the wave. That's when they're looking for all the stuff that's churned up in the sand and all that. And they're looking for an injured fish and that kind of stuff. So they smack it right away.
So, wow.
Dude, yeah, it's kind of exciting.
Never heard of it.
It's pretty. Yeah, you look it up on YouTube. There's a lot of guys doing it. It's pretty exciting fishing because it's just like a really quick. The fish that you're getting are good fighters too. So
sure.
And I do. The only other part of it, I do deep sea and have done deep sea fishing. Out 80 miles, going for tuna, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of fun. Those things are line burners for sure. So.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about US Cold? Tell us about the company, your locations, your size, your culture. Give our listeners a little idea about what's behind US Cold.
So US Cold is a public cold storage. We kind of always run around about 35, 40 facilities because we'll sell off older facilities and we're building new facilities all the time. We are a third party logistics warehouse. So we store for all the major production companies, be it ice cream, be it chicken, be it, beef. They usually are coming to us, looking to us to store their product after they've produced it, either in a freezer application or in a cooler application. And so then it depends on, what their criteria is. We've, over the last, I would tell you, probably 15 years, we've had a really huge growth spurt. We've probably more than doubled the company size in that 15 years. Yeah. So I don't know the exact numbers on the storage and all that. I mean, because it's kind of changing, and doing it. Yeah. So, myself alone, I've probably been involved in between 15 and 20 expansions or new from ground up, projects, from when I started.
Easily.
So, yeah. So, that's just to say, hey, we've got a lot of growth. We are owned by Swire, and they're a British company, and they've really, helped us, I think, be successful and grow like we need to grow. So
sure.
And, continuing to grow. I think we're going to have another growth spurt here coming up where we're going to be looking to, we always have between 3 to 5 projects every single year going on.
Yeah.
Every single year. There's something like about that average going on from the time I've started working for them till now. It really hasn't slowed up. So.
Yeah. And if you've ever been inside of a United States cold storage, their docks are like impeccable. They're clean, they're organized. Y'all have this culture, this system where you guys run such a clean, tight ship. And I think that speaks volumes for, making it easy on your sales guys. And also, hey, come store your food here and look at it. And it's
absolutely
a brainer,
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it is something I'm always proud to go into any facility, anytime, show anybody our facilities. You're right. They're impeccable. Most, every time we go in, show a customer, and that first impression is so important, and I think, and also, that really comes around to what, I know you talk about is like the family environment. I gotta say, we feel like a big family at US Cold. And that's one of the things that we've always been concerned about is maintaining our culture as we grow and teaching the people that are up and coming our culture. And I think we've done a really good job of that. And we're changing quite a bit internally, and the things that we have and the programs that we have and can do for the customer. There's a lot when a customer comes to us, there's a lot that we have to offer a customer that stores with us. From all their demands that they have on us. And that's really not my side of the business, but I do hear and see a lot of it and the improvements that we're doing. And I think that's what makes us successful. And I know we're not the cheapest, freezer storage
Sure.
place, but I think we do a great job at it, and we're very good at what we do. And I think that is why we get repeat customers, and they'll leave us for a cheaper place and come right back and say, "Yeah, we miss you guys."
Exactly.
So it's but it's the culture. It really is, and it's everybody treats everybody like family.
Yeah.
So.
Do you feel like US Cold does a good job of you mentioned like a lot of new people coming in and things like that. Have you guys or maybe you haven't encountered this at all, but how do you get new people to buy into that culture? Do you think they even have to, or is it just emulated so well from everyone that's already on the team that it's just adopted?
Well, we have at our corporate office US Cold Storage University. And
Mm.
so
Oh,
we
wow.
have brought together every like up and coming supervisor, manager, like in those roles, shipping, receiving, they go through 3 to 4 different, I forget how many cycles of this training of basically the US cold storage culture and what we are about and all the different programs that US cold storage offers. I've even done a class myself on construction. So they understand when we come to them and ask them about, hey, we want to build this phase for you or whatever, what do you need? Then they have a really good idea of what to tell us and how to build them a better warehouse, honestly.
Yeah.
And so
Wow.
that's really, I think, been key for us keeping our culture the same
Mhm.
as it has been for a lot of years. And I think that's really been one of those key elements to keep that culture going because that's for myself being with the company. Like I say, really, I've been with US Cold like 30 years. To
Mhm.
see that continues for me, I think that's the secret sauce. Keep
Yeah.
Absolutely.
going. So
Absolutely. I love that because especially when you like you said, we've grown so much and recent growth, like it can be hard to maintain that. So it's
yeah,
awesome to hear about the systems that companies have to be able to continue that culture because it's such a special culture. It's why people stay
right,
at companies for 35 years.
That's
So
right.
very true.
that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I gave them show notes and questions to ask, and one of them was, "What do you why do you love working for US Cold?" And I think you kind of already answered that, right?
Yeah, and it really is. It has been a family. I mean, it's honestly, there's been a lot of people I've actually grown up with. I mean,
Oh,
Yeah.
in reality, I really have. And they feel like, brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles kind of a thing. It really
Mhm.
feels that way around here because I've known people for so long. And you are concerned about them too. Things are happening to them, on a
Yeah.
personal level. You want to
100%.
know if you can help them and that kind of stuff too. So you know, it really is a neat culture. Like I say, I hope it continues that way because for me, it's been a really neat place to work. So.
What do you think? And you kind of touched on this a little bit, but we always like to ask too, like what separates US Cold from maybe your competitors?
This is one of those things that I say the only thing is I would tell you it's our customer service,
Mm.
probably, because that's one of the main things I would say because we're no different than anybody else. I mean, anybody can offer you a cold storage space and keep your product at a temperature. But
Hmm.
I think the way that we handle our customers, our customer service, and the way
Hmm.
we treat them and all that, I think that's really the only thing we've got going for us to keep them coming back. Because
Hmm.
like I said, we're not probably the cheapest, but I think we try to be the best.
yeah.
Hmm.
And we have our slogan is best in cold.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
we really, push that. And really, I think there's a big push to our employees as well is, we call each other the cold crew.
I
So
love it.
as a,
Wow.
kind of just a family thing to get everybody
Yeah.
on the same page. So
Well,
it's
and I
pretty neat.
think that family culture, probably your customers feel that, right?
They
People
do.
want to be a part of something like that.
I
So,
would think they have to. I mean, it's very hard to miss. I
mhm.
think, if you're around us, I think it's pretty hard to miss because our people are very engaged and they're very good at what they do, So, yep.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I gotta hand it to you. It's separating yourself from the competition. I mean, I look at you guys and you guys have this aura about you, like, dude, it's US Cold. Like, it's best in class. It's
Mhm.
best in cold. It's you guys have the clean docks, right? And
Well, they
and
built a reputation.
and you guys built such a good reputation in your people. And I mean, I think there's so many reasons why people buy from you guys and why you guys may have separated yourself from the competition as
Mhm.
far as you did,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
we really strive to do well, do good,
Yeah.
within it. And it's like we don't really have to or need to be number one at it. We just need to be the best at what we do, ourselves.
I love it. We're a cool talking all things cool podcast here. So I do want to ask you a question. I'm sure our listeners are going to love to hear. So you've done many projects, over 15 new construction projects. What has been your favorite construction project?
The one that I'm done. No.
The one you're just finishing up?
The one I'm finishing up. Yeah, that's my favorite. I'm done. No, each one has its own identity, and whether it's a ground up or it's a new expansion on an existing building. One of the ones that to me right now has been the most interesting, I have to say, is the Lake City project that I'm currently working on out of Florida, because we're combining technologies and we're future proofing our building. And what I mean by that is we're going to it's an expansion, and we're going to expand on the building, an existing building. We're going to go taller, and we're going to use turret trucks with a narrower aisle, with pushback racks, in-rack sprinklers, and conveyor systems to move product into the building. So there's a lot of things there that we're doing. It's a kind of I would tell you a hybrid conventional building with automation in it. The other part of this is that we're future proofing, because we see on the horizon, like Crown Lift, Raymond Lift, these other lift manufacturers are getting into the AGV field, where the turret trucks of today will be automated in the future. And so we're making our buildings future proof to accept that in the future, building it now to accept that in the future, knowing within 6 to 7 years that everything's going to be AGV possibly, and we want to make sure that it's ready for that going forward. And so this one has been probably one of my biggest challenges, I have to say, in a while, because there's been a lot of things we've had to think about and to make it all work, and go through. And you don't need to make it as tall as you need, because of, costs and whatnot. And so there was a lot of lessons learned, I have to say, on the Lake City project that I've not had the opportunity to get into before. So that was one that's going to be pretty memorable for me, because it's a lot of lessons learned. The other stuff, the conventional warehouse I say conventional warehouse, a typical stand-up forklift, 2D pushback or 2D put away type, what we normally do. Those you can almost do in your sleep now. But this Lake City kind of wakes you up like, okay, I got to start thinking about this and make sure that we're doing this right. It's been a pretty good challenge. It really has been. It's going to be neat. And I really think, I know a lot of guys talk about ASRS buildings, like an completely automated building. And we have those too. We've done that as well.
Okay.
I think in the future, and I could be wrong, but I think in the future, I think we're going to be maybe retrofitting some of our existing facilities because of AGVs and the stuff that's coming in the future, because you can redo racks in the side of a building to accommodate an AGV and things like that. And maybe increase
what's the
AGV?
What's the AGV?
It's like an automated guided vehicle.
Okay.
So it'll automatically go down an aisle on a wire guided, or if it's spatial awareness, it can do that. And then it can put away at any level product. Wow. So, and certain AGVs are just from point A to point B, ground level. But then like Crown, we've been working with them, and Raymond have been working on automating like turret trucks and forklifts to just be, automatic without a guy on it, pick up a pallet and go put it away in a warehouse.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's, because of COVID and our labor market, I think that's really going to be our future, going forward. So,
yeah. And, God bless all them employees right now working them and operating them forklifts in -10 and -20.
Yeah.
That is cold.
Well, that's even another consideration. So now the turret truck is a heated cab, and it's a man up heated cab. So guys could really pretty much work in a t-shirt if they wanted to inside the heated cab, stay in there for hours. And the idea is to just stay in there and keep working and be fed pallets, so that they just stay in an aisle and keep, putting away or bringing out whatever's needed. So again, that's been, it's been all part of, and then to figure out how to charge those things, in a freezer, those kind of, problems have to come up, and you got to figure that out too. So it's been a really neat project.
I like it. I think that handles some of your next question. the trends, right?
Oh, I mean,
We should talk about that.
Before that, I'd rather ask, GC selection. I mean,
oh, what do you look for? Yeah. What is
it's a
something?
big, everyone's going to want to know that. I mean,
Yeah, that's true.
Well,
Our listeners will want to know what kind of characteristics or qualities make a good GC to work with.
I think it's kind of a tricky question a little bit because it's obviously we're very cost sensitive. That's one thing. But at the same times, we're about myself. And I have to say, I'll just talk about myself on this is personally, I'm about building relationships with GCs and working with them, from start to finish to solve problems or whatever that is. We've got several major GCs, which that we work with. And I think it's as long as they understand our facility and what we want and can deliver on cost and on time, that's for us, what's really important. And again, I've got, I think, good relationships with several GCs that are out there. And over time, I mean, again, it's, outside of US, it's kind of my other family, I would say, and I really, when I like in my bio to, Vince here, I said, I did work for a contractor for a couple of years. And I said, for nothing, it's probably the worst time of my life. I got to be honest, doing it. But what I really learned coming out of that was how to treat a contractor on the other side as the end user. I said, if nothing else, I really learned that. And I have an appreciation for what they do. And I said, I try to work with them again to solve problems, be there I'm not there to beat them up. I'm there to, let's work through this. Let's come to a solution and let's figure this out. And
Dave, if anything that I know about you, you're always fair. And that's something to be said. I know a lot of end users that can beat up on the GC, and then the GC is going to beat up on the sub, and it's a trickle down effect. And that's what we have learned through our career is I was selling a product, right? I was a supplier vendor, right? And then I was a general contractor for a short amount of time. And then I was a subcontractor. So being in all three of those markets, if I have people that call on me trying to sell me something or introduce themselves a product or whatever, I take the time of day because I was in that chair before and I can appreciate that. And I want to give them the time and day because, when I was young buck, I was begging for that time and day, you know what I mean? And it's not easy. And just treating people fairly is super important. And you certainly do that 100%.
Right. I think that's very important. It really is. And I do try to treat everybody as if I like to be treated because I mean, like I say, I've been on the other side. I know how I felt then. Like you said, how you felt then. I don't want them to feel uncomfortable. I want them to, to know that I'll treat them, with all due respect and fairly, and we just, like I say, try to work it out. Let's just, what's fair. Let's just try to work it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, 'cause I think there's a mutual shared goal at the end. So
absolutely,
it's mutually beneficial for us to problem solve it together,
right?
work together. Yeah.
And because I realize they're there to make a profit and I'm there to help them make that profit. I'm not trying to dig into their pockets. I don't feel that way. And at the same time, I'm trying to get us up and running as soon as possible because then we start making a profit.
Exactly.
So I think that's very important. So if I can work to them to get to a final goal, a date that I can get certain rooms and things open and making money, that's really, if you're working together as partners together to that end, it works very well, but if you're fighting each other and bucking each other, they're going to find ways to make you fail. So.
Hey, Dave, I got a story I'd like to share, and it involves you and I many years ago, and it's a funny story. So I'm going to tell you, this is my cool moment, a learning lesson in the industry. So when I got employed at Enviro, was, right out of college, thought I knew everything.
Of course.
Total, young, cocky punk kid with a punchable face.
I wasn't there.
With a punchable face. And I looking back, I wish I would have, beat my own ass. But, honestly, so we have this house account, United States Cold Storage. And I was working with Jeff Frederick at the time, and he handled California. But he was more on the pharmaceutical side. So he was, moving more in that direction. I was going to come in and handle, California in in cold storage line. And I remember Jeff going, hey, Dave Arnett, US Cold, national account, house account, great guy. Like, they got budgets coming up. You got to price them all these doors. And I remember calling Dave and something along the lines of like, hey, I'm so-and-so, you have to buy my doors and here's the price and all this stuff. And like, I think you called Jeff and you go, who is this kid? and why does he think that I just automatically have to like him and work with him? And I remember Jeff coming to me like, dude, you need to like pump the brakes here with Dave, maybe set up a meeting and, get to know him. And like, that was the immediate lesson learned, like, who do you think you are type lesson learned.
You had no relationship there.
No relationship whatsoever. I just went in thinking like, he's just automatically going to buy from me, dude. And you were super nice about it, but also like, who's this kid?
It was a good lesson in there.
It was a good lesson. Yes. So thanks for being nice to me.
Well, I don't remember that part, Colin. I probably did because I usually I try to deal. I have like the guy at the facility I'm calling, but that's funny. Yeah.
I remember that and I'll never forget it. It was good. It was a good lesson.
A pivotal lesson for you.
It was. Yes. So nothing is a made account and
no,
nothing's guaranteed.
It's not. It's a good life lesson.
Yes.
But anyways, we'd love to hear your cool moment, a cool story, maybe a funny story, something from your 35 years in the industry. And this will be sponsored by our friends at Versafoam.
Yeah.
So what do you have? What's a cool moment in your history?
Well, one of the probably I have to say is probably back in 2008, 2009, I had 3 projects under my belt at that time. I was doing one in Fresno, I was doing one in Turlock, and I had one in Utah. And we were just renovating a building in Syracuse, Utah. And believe it or not, all 3 of these projects had a July 4th deadline to do.
Oh boy.
And so at that time, and I know Vince knows, Mike Atkins had just come on board with us and was starting in corporate office, project engineer too as well. And I had called him and I said, listen, I'm not going to be able to get this done in time. I said, I tell you what, it's 4th of July. Why don't you go to Utah? It's a small startup. Just see them through. Take your family out there, have a good time out there, spend the week there, and I'll take care of California for you and do that. So we agreed on that schedule. We said, okay, that way we can get everything open and going by then. And so then Mike went out there to Utah. He got that going, no problems. And then I was basically in Fresno. We had a pump down. I was probably in Fresno the July 3rd and 4th, continuous through that. But then also was running up to Turlock to make sure that got done as well. Turlock ended up being a little bit more sticky because we had issues, and it was a cascade, so it's ammonia and CO2 facility there. And so it's a little bit more difficult getting going and had to have some extra help brought in. I'll say this, in Turlock, we had to wait on the fire guy, Marshall, to sign us off. And I had 60 trucks out in the parking lot waiting to get in, right? First thing, and no pressure to get him signed off.
Yeah.
He walks out. So, and this is the third of the, third project. So we got Fresno done, Utah's done, and I'm waiting on this one. Fire marshal walks out. Yep, looks good. I said, okay. I turned around and said, let's go. We backed up 60 trucks, and within 2 weeks, we pretty much filled the rooms that we just had built. I said, it was amazing. So it came across, and it all came, and all of it just, and at that time, everybody was talking recession and talking, out of work. And I was like, I'm sorry, but I have no idea what you're talking about. Because I said, I've been so busy with my hair on fire.
Yeah. I
just don't know, how you could be sitting at home looking for a job, and I'm, going crazy. But it was just one of those things that all of it came together and it all worked out. And, again, one of those that timing and having good people like Mike to help me out, get things up and going. So, yep.
That's a great story.
That's incredible. I love that.
Incredibly satisfying to see that.
Yeah,
absolutely. Dave, you touched everything on future proofing these buildings. I was going to talk to you about innovations and technologies and be more specific and pin down a product to you. So I'm going to stick with that. Let's talk refrigeration for a minute before I want to be cognizant of your time. I know you're busy. So my last technical question to you is industry trends, future, think refrigeration, touch on what your favorite refrigeration system is if you have one, and where do you think that technology is going?
Refrigeration is kind of in a really unique place right now where we have ammonia refrigeration. You do have freons, but in a commercial aspect, we don't really use freons. So we do use CO2 as a freon, as a refrigerant.
Mhm.
And so we have ammonia facilities, we have ammonia CO2, we call them cascade facilities. And then we do have one facility in Turlock where it's a standalone, just CO2 transcritical. And depending on the application, transcritical can be, and it is, a very efficient and cost saving energy wise, and also water reduction. Like in Turlock, we've estimated about 5 million gallons of water reduction use for condensers,
Wow.
that kind of stuff annually. Also, our power bill is probably about between 10 and 20% less because it's transcritical. So it's,
Nice.
it's really worked out well. I would tell you it's probably not the right application for everything, but a combination of, I would tell you, I mean, because you could do DX ammonia and still be a very efficient refrigeration system. But I think the trends are looking for us. We look at what we think between either transcritical or, I would tell you, a cascade CO2 ammonia system for just as a refrigerant, and going that way. I don't really see in the future it changing much from that, because as efficient as it is, I just don't know if you can, besides certain products or equipment making it better or more efficient, I don't see it going any different, avenue, a different way. There could be, I mean, a lot of what you may see is there's a lot of smaller, I would almost say transportable refrigeration units that go up on rooftops and even on warehouses that are just, okay, set a box down, you got your compressors, you got your, condenser right beside it, and you pipe over to your evaporators in a room. Very, and that's a very popular trend right now. Maybe not always the right or correct solution to everything, but it can be cost effective. And that's really a trend right now, is doing it that way. And again, it's just, every application has its difficulties, and you have to make that refrigeration, whether it be transcritical or cascade, work, I think. Even the one we just did in Tulare is ammonia, but it's an expansion on an existing facility. And we went and did that exercise. We said, well, we could throw up a transcritical unit right up on the roof there, but cost wise, it did make sense because we already have an existing engine room we could just tap onto, and
exactly.
So
for sure,
economy of scale, that it plays into it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Dave, do you have anything you want to add that we might have left out for the audience? You want to talk about anything before we wrap up with you?
What about our golf game, Vince? That's good. I would say, I would like to say though, is that was, I think, in a roundabout way, the same thing as what you guys are doing with your podcast, is getting groups of guys from different, door manufactured refrigeration together. We had I'll just say we had a golf tournament that Vince and I used to do together. And we had a really good time because we had a lot of guys from the industry get together and have a day just off talking, with them, and had really good times together. Getting to know each other.
Back up. What are we doing here? So we used to do this golf outing. It was like a US Cold golf outing that I'd host, and I'd bring all the West Coast US Cold guys in from Bakersfield to Tulare, Turlock, Fresno, Sacramento, right? And they'd all come in, and it was just an awesome afternoon at in Danuba at Ridge Creek.
Yep.
And we would do a just an appreciation golf outing, and I think we're gonna fire that back up next year.
Because we had a lot of guys that would just, it was just a neat time to get people and reps together to just on a more personal level to talk. And
it grew though, and we started bringing in like general contractors and other suppliers, and all of a sudden it turned into this big.
Everybody, all of our guys started talking about it and loving it, and then everybody's like, "Well, I want to be a part of that." I mean, and then so everybody's like, "I want to get on there. I want to do that, and help." And so it was kind of one of those things that kind of started growing, like you said, it just started growing.
Well, let's fire that back up. We usually did it in like September or October.
Yeah, at least to get it under 100. degrees before we start putting. Because we did try it one time this summer. It's just
it was too hot. It was way too hot. And then we like to do that because you guys have a lot of your capital stuff and meetings and stuff.
Yeah, so, at the end of the year. Yeah.
So we try to do it after that, right?
Right.
Yeah. Cool. Right. All my competitors out there, don't steal my idea. Absolutely.
The only other thing too, I'd like to say is I think this podcast is a great venue that I've been really enjoying watching, and guys that I've known over years, talk about how they came into the industry and all. And I say, really, we should have been doing this a long time ago. It's just one of those things because we all talk, everybody knows everybody. And just to put it in a format like this it's been, needed, I guess. And to me, it seems like a really neat idea. So I'm glad you guys are doing it. I'm sure it's a lot of your time, but I really enjoy watching.
It's fun because we can reconnect with people that we don't get to see all the time. We get to hear stories about their lives that we maybe didn't know. So it's been really fun.
Yeah, I didn't know you were a surf fisherman.
Nope.
So
I'll show you some boring pictures next time we're together.
Totally.
He was this big.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I will be out there. I'll see you soon. I know we wrapped up something together, and I'll see you soon. But how do we find Dave?
Oh yeah, let our listeners know how to find information about US Cold if they wanted to look at more or get more information about the company. Where would they find?
Or find Dave Arnett.
Or find Dave Arnett.
If you want to be found now. You told everybody you got 5 projects a year. So I apologize. Your phone is now going to blow up. So
no, I think everybody's already got my wife can't believe my contact list on my phone already. It's, over several hundred at this point, but because I looked at your podcast the other day and I was like, oh, I got him in my phone. I know him.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I was trying to make sure I had it. It was one of those, but So to get a hold of US Cold Storage, it's just, uscold.com. You can get a hold of somebody there. If you don't get a hold of anybody there, get a hold of me at just darnett@uscold.com. You can reach me there. And that's where pretty much everybody gets a hold of me. So.
Awesome. Well, that's fantastic. Well, you're not off the hook yet. We got our my favorite round, the cool rapid round questions sponsored by VersaFoam. I'm going to ask you a series of this or that questions. Pick one or the other. This is meant to be fun. And man, you ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. So NHL or NFL?
NFL.
Iced coffee or hot coffee?
Hot coffee.
Ocean guy or mountain guy?
Ocean, all the way.
Winter or summer?
Summer, all year long.
There you go. Are you box and box construction or ground up new construction guy?
We don't do box to box, but we do new construction. I would say new construction.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Are you a cold beer or cold drink guy?
I'm an iced tea, cold drink guy.
Okay. Ping pong or air hockey?
Ping pong.
Mm-hmm. And I already know the answer to this. Ammonia or Freon refrigeration?
Ammonia.
There you go. And my last but not least, Justin Timberlake or Justin Bieber?
JT.
All right. Yes, sir.
And well, I like the answer he said with was it Shelton with that? Have you seen that with Timberlake and I think it's Justin Shelton. I think is that the right name?
Blake Shelton.
No, the country. No, I'm saying the wrong name.
Chris Stapleton.
Oh, Chris Stapleton.
Chris Stapleton. There you go.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
Those two together, really good.
Oh my God. They have something on YouTube they did together at the AMCs, and it is still by far one of the best live performances I've ever heard.
Mm-hmm. I saw that. It is. You're right. Really neat. Yeah, really neat.
Hands down.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, thank you so much for your time. And this podcast was awesome. Mm-hmm. Thank you guys all for listening. Yes. Episode 23 going out with a bang with Mr. Arnett from US Cold. Yeah. So we hope you guys enjoyed it. That wraps up our podcast for the 2022 season. I hope and wish everyone from the bottom of our hearts, happy holidays, Merry Christmas.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. We will be back in January.
2023. Here
all
we come.
Fresh, all new. Continue to support us if you guys can. Share us on LinkedIn. Keep clicking the like buttons. Subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe to our podcast. You can listen to us on your iPhone.
Follow us on all the socials.
Yeah, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Twitter, which is my new favorite.
Twitter's
platform.
back.
Twitter's back, baby. So yeah, that's it. That's all we.
Dave, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Dave.
Thanks,
I appreciate
really
you,
appreciate the opportunity.
Yes, sir. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for listening.
We'll see you in 2023.
See you next year, guys. Thank you.